Okay, to add custom validation here, there are a few steps we need to follow. First of all, just to refresh your memory, in bundle config, we have a separate bundle for jQuery validation. Now, potentially we can merge this bundle with our lib bundle if you're going to use this in a lot of different places. But for now, I would rather to keep them separate and include jQuery validation only on pages where we need it. So back here in the script section, we add @scripts.render bundles/jQuery val. Next, we go on top of the form. Here's our customer text box. We can use standard HTML5 validation attributes. Like here, I'm going to add required, and jQuery validation plugin understands this. Now, finally, we need to plug in the validation. Here's where we submit the form. Before this, I'm going to use jQuery to get a reference to our form, new rental, and call the validate method. This plugs in validation into this form. But there is a tiny problem here. With the current implementation, our form will be submitted even if it's not valid. So we need to get the code inside the submit handler and move it inside this validate. So first, we pass an object here. This is the configuration of our validation. Here we set submit handler to a function. If the form is valid, this function will be called to submit the form to the server. Now we get the code inside our submit handler, cut, and paste it here. And then delete this. Save, back to Chrome, refresh. Look, we got the validation message here. Now let's make this red. So right click, inspect. So you see it's a label with the class error. So back in Visual Studio, I'm going to go to site.css. Earlier in the course, we defined this class field validation error, which is applied to the error messages next to input fields. Now I'm going to add label.error here as well. And similarly, I'm going to add input.error here. So the invalid fields will have a red border. Save, back to the browser. There you go. So this is the basic of validation, but something is missing here. If I type ABC here, the validation message disappears, but this is not a valid customer. We should enforce the user to select a valid customer from the list. So to handle this, we need a custom validator. Back to our form. Before calling the validate method, I'm going to create a custom validator. So jQuery.validator.add method. We give this a name, valid customer. And here's our validation function that jQuery will call. Now here, I want to make sure that our view model has a property called customer ID, and this customer ID has a numeric value that is not 0. So return vm.customerID, and vm.customerID is not 0. Just basic JavaScript. Now here, optionally, we can specify an error message, like please select a valid customer. Now to apply this, we go back to our customer text box, apply a data attribute, data-rule-valid customer, and we set that to true. So jQuery validation plugin looks for custom attributes that start with data-rule. Save. Let's test this. Look, we got the error, but if I select Mary, the error disappears. Now here's your exercise. You want to enforce the user to select at least one movie. So create a custom validator and plug this into the form. In the next lecture, we'll review my code.